preparation of the conference, I was asking myself what could be typical Tcl. What could be an issue which is realized in Tcl in a better way than other languages, and I found that our XML editor would be a good example. Just let's clarify. Grandfather, that's me. Vimacon is the company. I'm majority shareholder and CEO. Therefore, whenever Vimacon is mentioned here, it's legal. It's okay. And VDAT.org is another term you might see in the conference, which is just listed my private playground for Tcl web server projects. By the way, my first and original profession is electronics engineer. I've been involved in hardware development for about 25 years, designing vision systems and embedded controllers and so on. And since about 12 years, 10 to 12 years, I have a new profession. That's we design HMIs, human-machine interfaces, totally written in Tcl for large machinery, blister packaging machines, for example, and industrial printers. That's the base of the history. Now, I want to speak about what's special with our YAXA editor, a real-world example, how to design it, what's the benefit, and some software architectural details. We will see whether we have the time to speak about them. We call OpenYAXA a generic tool. What does that mean? Generic tool for us means that the tool changes behavior dependent on the data it is working with. I mean, we had in the beginning, when we started this large HMI project, we had the problem that we had to develop a runtime system for the control level. We had to design the HMI visualization system, the tools for it, and everything at the same time. And we found out that it is really, you might know it, it's difficult to have the tools always in sync with your development. That means your customers or yourself, you need something to configure and to do something, but the tools are never on the same level as the main development of your system. That was the point where we started to think about a tool which could adapt to the job. Yes, let's say it's a tool which should change itself dependent on what you need. If you need a hammer, it should be a hammer. If you need a knife, it should be a knife. That's what we are doing. In general, the benefits of Tcl/Tk, in that time we decided we take two decisions. First, going with Tcl/Tk because we needed a modular system which should be able to configure itself on the fly. And the second decision was going with XML as a data structure or as a means of structure. The ability to load new functionality was one of the main requirements. The possibility of the program to modify itself. Isolation of different situations, for example by namespaces, of course also another means. And of course the pure performance and feature richness of Tcl as a language, with all the bells and whistles we have in the meantime. And by the way, that's a good opportunity to thank all the people developing Tcl core team with TDOM developers, the SQLite developers, and all the great people doing such a good job. To demonstrate what we think what a generic tool could be, I want to demonstrate a real world example. Let's do the address book within this short demonstration. In less than an hour, that means if it wouldn't be prepared, it's of course a little bit prepared. The first step would be to have clear the user requirement. It should be an address book for private use, but also for organizations. That means we would need departments, organizations, and different behavior if we speak about persons or organizations. It should be extendable anytime. Whenever you have the property of a person or of an organization, you should be able to add it without question. Persons and organizations should be grouped and linked. And it should be able to export to other formats like Thunderbird, address book, or whatever. And it should have a user interface. And that's a task to do that all within, let's say, 1 hour. The first step, the first design step would be to get a little bit clear about the software architecture. Let's say we define suitable data structures. Where do we want to store the data? We will do it in the XML file because that's the issue I'm speaking about. We will have to build an empty database, of course. We will have to fill it. We have to define contents, limits, ranges, and so on. We need a user interface, and we need perhaps some sort of business logic what to do with the data. The first step defines suitable data structures. For us, it's easy. We just take one folder. We call it, let's say, organizer, and we have 2 subfolders. One we call database. That's all just my idea. We could do it another way. And we have another folder we call Yaxe, just because the tool is named Yaxe. And this is a place where we start to put the DTD of our new database. And then we have to build an empty database. That's it. Now, I have to switch over to from the presentation to the editor, or let's say, just have a look. That's all we need at the first step. We have the database. This is only one XML file. And we have Yaxe, and there we have the DTD of that database. It's just called organizer DTD. Let's have a look. Just ignore the first part. The second, the database is formed by, or filled with persons, let's say in the beginning, persons, organizations, and groups. These are the attributes of the persons. We already defined names, display names, title, street, city, and so on and so on, whatever you think, birthday, mailing list, contact persons, and so on. So many phone numbers as needed. We have groups, nodes, and we have organizations. And the link between organization and the person is the element at orga. That means the person at that organization. That means if a person, maybe you know a person personally, private, then you have the private address. Maybe you know the same or another person as a member then you might need the organization address and the private address. Maybe it's a member of different organizations and you would have even more. And all of this should be linked together. And the organization should have also departments. This is at the first step. It's very easy to design because these are wishes, not more. We can write just down. Just what all ideas we have, we can write down. The first empty database This is our database. Valid, well-formed XML, and it's ready to use. And now, in the first step, we are ready. That's our address book. But it would not be easy to fill it and to work with it. And there, where we want to introduce Yaxen. This is our Yaxen installation. At that moment, it's not web, it's just plain Tcl. We have the standard, let's say, organization of code. We have client-dependent code because we're working for different clients and all the clients have different needs. We have country-specific code like text files and manuals and so on. This is already architecture and this is the application. You can start it directly with Windows, you can start it double-clicking, or with a batch file. With a batch file, you have the possibility to mention also configuration options, let's say debugging mode or client name, language, and so on. Just start it. And that's the Yaxen. We open the file. That's it. At the moment, Yaxen knows everything about the structure, the XML structure, which is written in the DTD. And that means on the left side, we have the DOM tree. At the right side, we will have the attributes. At the moment, it's empty, it's just a root element. With opening the context menu on the tree, you have the choices of the elements which are legal at that place. From the root element, we have everything. We can have persons, and as a sub-element of persons, there's only person. And then all the attributes are shown. You can fill it, you can store it, and that's the first possibility to fill your database with persons. And the same way with organizations, new organizations. Organizations may have departments or node or whatever. All the attributes which are required cannot be deselected here. All attributes which are implied, you can deselect completely. In case of attributes with a known range of values, like gender, which can be masculine or feminine, you can. This is drawn from the DTD. That means if the DTD shows you there are two choices, Yaxen will automatically show you these two choices. If it's 4, it will show you 4, of course. Okay, you can work with that tree. You can copy, cut, delete, duplicate, move it around, and build your database. You can't do any error because Yaxen is make sure that you cannot insert elements where they are not legal, and you can write into your attributes whatever you want, including XML. It's automatically escaped. For example, you can save the file, save as backup, reload it, and so on. We have a viewer of the original raw document, which looks like that at the moment, and also on the document data, which means where the DTD and so on. If the DTD is embedded into the file, it's completely shown here. Also possible. You can choose an encoding, and we have a nice search dialog where you can search in your database, full text search or regex patterns or attribute search, element search, and so on. That's yes. That's what I said before. Okay, that means OpenAccess allows you to input to and to edit any XML file. That means if you have in your computer, wherever, in your system, in your daily work, there's any XML file where you have the DTD or the DTD is embedded, you can open the access, edit it, and work with it without any work to it, any preparation. But it can even more. We introduced two more file types. We use it DCD, document content definition, and document content resources. These two files you don't need, as you have seen, but these are helpful. DCD is by itself an XML file which describes the legal content of your XML file. It's not structure. Structure is defined by the DTD. We speak about content. That means what's allowed there, what labels should be shown, and so on. We'll see the details. And the DCD has its own DTD, of course, and you can edit it and modify it to the Yux itself. The DCR, the document content resource, we put all Tcl code in. This is pure Tcl, but we call it just a little bit different to make sure to show what the meaning is. But it's pure Tcl code. Most of it you can write as you want. We have only, I think, only one procedure which is defined. Everything else you can do as you want. The simple features of DCDs are the definition of user interface text. That means you can now configure your surface, your user interface of Tcl. You can have your own labels, which must not be the same as at the first glance, at the first moment. If you are working without DCD, you have the attribute names as a label before the attribute entry field. You can now change it by defining label text. We can define bubble help text, which appear if you move the cursor over an entry field. It will pop up and show the user what to do. For example, please keep in mind to use a special date format or some hints what he should enter or what he should avoid. More complex features means we can choose now from a selection of input widgets. Before we had only text entries and this small selection which is coming from DTD. Now we can choose also checkboxes, radio buttons, font selectors, color selectors, customize your own input procedures. We can have choices, selections, which come from elsewhere. It's not limited to the DTD. Now you can have your own selections given by the DCR. And we have data and input validation by regex pattern, by ranges, by external procedures. That means you can have own validation procedures for all and every attribute. You can check the correct input of dates, you can check the correct input of names, of email addresses, and so on and so on. Everything is done with that DCD and DCR. The data sources for the attribute fields. At the moment, the user must enter it, but with the DCR we can now deliver or offer the user a list of choices he can select from for every attribute. It means we can predefine valid content of every attribute, and the user just have to choose one. And we have another thing, which is the fetch action. We call it fetch action because it's a button beside the attribute entry field, and if you hit the button, a procedure in the DCR is called to return the value. The procedure which is returning this value can be of any complexity. It can be hard-coded, it can be asking an external server, it can be asking Google for what. There's absolutely no limit. It must just return one value, and that value will enter into the attribute field. There's one special procedure in the DCR which we call navigation info. And the navigation info defines pairs of X pointers to be linked. That means you can link the data of one person with the data of a company. And then you can switch over, or you can jump. If you're editing the person, you can jump to the company is working for example. All this I will show you. It's just an overview. And there's so-called action procedures. Also have a button beneath the attribute entry, but they do not return nothing. They just call a procedure. And this procedure, that's the mechanism we use to execute, for example, export, an export function. I mean, we define a tool, and we call the tool from Yaxa, and let's say to export our database to a Thunderbird address. Or you can do whatever you want. That means, in general, we are ready. If we have a DCD, we decided how the database should look like. We have Yaxa, we have, of course, Tcl, then our address book application is ready. Now I will show you some details how it is done in reality. The DCD is, of course, a little bit complex. You see the DTD of it, all the different possibilities, the ID, label, a switch whether it should be visible, a switch whether it should be editable, a help text, data type, visual types like lists, entries, text boxes, radio buttons, spin boxes, and so on. Validation procedures, action procedures, and so on. And you see that's a little bit complex. But doesn't matter because we have the accent for our first DTD, which is of course empty. We just load our empty file, say okay, let's build a new DTD. Go on wherever. And then we can edit it. And that's DCD. I mean, now you can start modifying the behavior of your tool. Yeah? Yes, it's still the same tool, but it will now change everything because you will have your own text, your own procedures and validations and so on. I will just show you the same version but fully filled. That's my private organizer. It's the same in German. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to translate it all, and therefore it must be a little bit flexible. But it's the same, absolutely the same application. We have persons and organizations now filled with real names. We have some persons which are okay, right. Let's have a look here. This person is member of an organization, and whenever this navigation info procedure matches the ad orga element of that person with a real organization, then the label becomes blue. And if you hit on the label, you are moved to the organization it belongs to. This is the in-document navigation, let's say. Let's have a look. Yeah, the checkbox. With organizations, I can show you. We have in the DCD of that project, we have a list of possible kinds of organizations. And these are now delivered whenever this attribute is shown. We see the list, the predefined list from where I can now choose. Wherever the list comes from, that's what we want. And with the same concept, you can now choose other entry elements like radio buttons. At the moment, there's not so many possibilities to modify. The tools are just packed into one block, one element we call admin. It's up to you to call it. And we have commands, and we just take the attributes of the command element as the parameters we use to call this tool. We have a list of tools in the DCD, what tools are allowed. We have the filters. These filters are typical filters you can use. Everything what TDOC allows, you can use here. For example, we have a filter of all persons where the attribute for Tyler contains the string C75. C75 is a Siemens handy, and this was a possibility to build an export file for that handy, for that mobile phone. You have export to Thunderbird, as another filter, of course, we have a sort rule, a target directory, target file. This button is a fetch action because it should return a file name. This is a warning. And this is an action because it performs the action. Ready? And that's export now. That's it. This file you can import to Thunderbird. Let's just have a look how the VCR is going. As I said, it's pure Tcl. Everything you can do here also. We have organization kinds. We have a list of, this procedure returns a list of company. All the braces here means return a label which has the same name. You can also say company and then a label which should be shown in the selection if it should be different. That means the data which is shown is not necessarily the same as insert into your document. We have link kinds predefined. We have user tools predefined. This is a procedure which is mentioned in the BCD as a validation procedure. That means we say in the BCD, we have one fitting. You can see how to mention organization kind means that the kind attribute of the element organization. It has a label text, it is visible, it is editable, it has data type text. Visual should be list because we want to choose from a list. We have help text, and now the resource is named with procedure name, organization kind, and procedure arguments which are handled.